on. Shannon, how's your patience with me? Is it good?
I'm hanging in there.
Okay, me too. Okay, Shannon McKinnon.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous about this drive-by. I'm nervous because it's so emotional and it's so powerful and it's so heavy and it's so all of these feelings. But I really hope we can get the positive too. And
Yes.
You're so amazing at sharing your grief. Shannon McKinnon's story is a parent's worst nightmare.
Yep.
That's mine. That's my
Oh,
dog.
you know what's amazing? Can you do that? Can you look at your Aunt Melissa? Because I want to show them the back of your cape. There it is. Right there. That's your magic cape. What's this cape for? Do you know what this cape is? Harrison. And what do you feel when you wear that cape?
Shan.
Strong.
Well, I heard the doctor speaking, watched the words that left his lips.
You had a little boy named Harrison.
Yes.
And what happened with Harrison?
When Harrison was just past his first birthday, if we try to look back and figure out when it all started, it was about the time that he turned 1. He started getting sick a lot and he started getting fevers. And we kind of just thought that he was, a kid that got sick a lot and got a lot of colds, and he was in daycare, so he had daycare germs, and it took quite a while to figure out. So from the time that we started, I guess, trying to figure out what was going on with him to when he was ultimately diagnosed with cancer, it was probably 2 months. And after what felt like forever, we finally got a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So we basically lived 3 weeks isolated and then 1 week at Sick Kids for 8 months. And then we were done, and he was cancer-free and everything was gone, and he responded great to treatment, and everyone was really happy with how he had done. And, we were kind of sent on our way and told that we would do a follow-up scan in 6 months, which is protocol. And then about a month before his follow-up, his routine scan was scheduled for, we started wondering if maybe something was back. We were right, it was back, and it wasn't everywhere like it had been before, but it was significant, and so they started him on chemo right away again. Their bag of tricks was nearing empty, basically. So then we started an experimental drug that they were still doing clinical trials on. That drug was not working. And so then we basically went to the last drug that was available, and they told us that it was the last option. So this last Hallelujah Hail Mary drug did work, and his cancer went away, and we went to Sick Kids, and he had a stem cell transplant in March of last year. And what that entails is basically 6 weeks of isolation. So you're in a tiny room, a very, very tiny room, and he can't leave for 6 weeks. And
How old is he at this point?
he was 2.5. So there was a lot of screen time, unfortunately, and
Oh, please.
trying to entertain him with, like new toys and Paw Patrol and basically like everything that we could do, we tried to do. When Harrison had the transplant, he was given this little set of 7 mini Robert Munch books. And he couldn't have them in the room for transplant because they're paper and you can't sanitize paper. So we didn't give them to him until he was discharged and we went home. So we gave him this set of books, and it was like The Fire Station and The Paper Bag Princess, and like the good ones, like the ones that and they're funny and they're great stories. But he wanted this one called The Dark, and he wanted us to read it to him all the time, and he carried it around with him all the time, and he slept with it. And so the story of The Dark is basically this girl walks into her kitchen one day, this little girl, and opens a cookie jar, and out pops this like shadow, this dark. And they don't call it a shadow, they call it the dark. And the dark starts eating everything up. So it eats up the chairs and the table and the flowers and the sunshine. And basically it eats everything in the neighborhood to the point where no one can see where they are anymore because it's so dark, because this dark has eaten everything. And so she goes and gets a cookie jar and like taunts the dark back into the cookie jar and puts on the lid, and she tapes it with tape and she glues it with glue and plasters it with plaster. And the garbage truck comes and takes it away, and it goes away and it never comes back again. This is the story. And my husband is convinced that Harrison latched onto this book because the dark is cancer. But then after the stem cell transplant, they did some blood work that showed that he was actually rejecting the transplant. So the transplant hadn't worked, but they did a scan that showed that the regimen that they do to prepare him for the stem cell transplant is basically radiation and really, really high doses of chemo, and that seemed to have zapped the cancer. So the cancer was gone, completely gone. But the chemo and the radiation, the like huge, big, heavy hitters that they do before the stem cell transplant, basically eradicates the immune system completely, like zero immune system. There's nothing to fight anything. They're susceptible to things that if we got this virus or that fungus, we wouldn't even show symptoms. It's so innocuous. It's so unimportant. But for these kids, they're so susceptible to it that you have to be really careful. And ultimately, that's what he got. We don't know what it was still. He got an infection, and we went to Sick Kids by ambulance on a Tuesday, and on the Saturday, he died.
I'm so sorry, Shannon.
Thanks.
I am so sorry.
And oh, my mother, hold me, please. What does every strong heart have to bleed this way? Oh, not this way.
And then the other thing that let us know that maybe Harrison knew that he was not going to be around much longer is for like 3 or 4 weeks before he died, he randomly would just say, "Storm's coming, Mummy. Storm's coming, Daddy. Just storm's coming." And we kind of thought it was from like Paw Patrol or something that he was watching. There was a Paw Patrol book where one of the lines was "Storm's coming," but he would say it like in the car or in the house or when we were going for a walk, and there was no storm coming. There was no clouds. He would just say, "Storm's coming. Storm's coming." And then the day that he died, we left the hospital and it started raining as soon as we walked out the door, and we drove home, and we got home, and that night there was a massive storm, like house shaking thunder and like lightning that felt like it was hitting the front lawn right outside. It was so bright, like it lit up the whole room. And that was the night that he died. And I think like Barrett and I don't think could relax for a few weeks before he died. I think we were both really anxious because he was carrying this book around and he was saying storm's coming, and I don't think we actually read into it what we're now reading into it, but we just felt uneasy at the time. And he had just had a baby brother in January and he died in June, and someone gave him a little like dinky car truck that looked like Barrett's truck, his dad's truck, and we would say like, "Oh, Daddy's truck, who's in the truck? Is our family in the truck?" And he would say, "Mommy, Daddy, Jack. Mommy, Daddy, Jack." And we would say, "Mommy, Daddy, Harrison and Jack? Mommy, Daddy, Jack." Like he knew.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Is that comforting to you?
A little bit, I guess. It's more just surreal.
How are you? Like, how are you doing? How are you and your husband?
That's a really hard question. And, we're kind of hot potatoes with people right now because they don't know what to say. They don't know whether they should say Harrison's name or not say Harrison's name. And I think it can be uncomfortable talking to people like us, right? Because like, how are we? No one knows. Like, are we going to fly off the handle? Cry, not cry, be angry? And day to day, we could be any of those things. So I think it's valid. We're okay. We're seeing a grief counselor through Hospice Peterborough, and he has been...
David?
Yeah, David.
David Kennedy.
David Kennedy is an earth angel. Do we want to pack up Harrison's room? Do we want to leave it exactly as it is? Do we want to put Jack in Harrison's hand-me-downs? Do we not want to see Jack in Harrison's hand-me-downs? All of those things are like stumbling blocks that we kind of have to feel each other out and see, how does Barrett feel about this? How do I feel about this? Like, what, do we have to meet in the middle somewhere and figure out how to navigate it together? Our perspective in life now, and it took Harrison dying for us to get there, but your house doesn't need to be clean, your laundry doesn't need to be done, you don't need to care if you're late for things. Just listen to your kids and hug them and appreciate all the moments that you have with them, and And seriously, just don't sweat the small stuff because it doesn't matter.
You're sharing and helping so many other people because it happens. It happens.
It happens a lot. I think it's important to us because I feel like it's the only thing that we can actually do, like proactively do something rather than just sit around and be sad. We want to raise awareness that this happens more than people think, that 1 in under 300 kids will be diagnosed with cancer. And it was the last thing that we thought would happen, and it did, and that 1 in 5 of those kids will die. And of those that survive, a lot of them will live the late effects of chemo. And I'm a nurse, and I didn't know what chemo meant in the long term, like what it does. It can cause infertility in these kids. It can cause deafness. It can cause permanent organ damage. It can cause cognitive deficits. They can struggle in school. They can struggle socially. And chemo itself, exposing the body to chemo, can increase the risk of them getting a different kind of cancer entirely later in their life. But the new drugs that they're making are really smart drugs. These are the drugs that they need money to get out so that they're frontline drugs available to people.
You know, if you've ever spent time with children who have cancer, there's something. They've got this soul about them. So you can all help.
Yes.
So a beautiful song was written.
Yes.
So me and Liza are going to perform Strong Heart. And we wrote the song for all the cancer warriors. And we made a really special video. And who's in the video, Liza? Do you know?
Harrison.
And our friend Neve. And who else? Liza.
Eliza, can you tell me before we sing what kind of cancer you had? Do you know? Leukemia? And how are you feeling today? Where's the cancer now?
Gone.
Hey, right here.
Well, the things that used to seem so hard, they don't matter to us now. Every tear of joy, every beating heart is all truth that teaches us how. Are you ready? To be strong. Fight and hold on. And oh, my mother, hold me, please. What does every strong heart have to bleed? What does every strong heart have to bleed this way? Oh, bleed this away.
I think what's important to both Melissa and Eliza's family and our family is that people need to be aware of why it's important to fund children's cancer specifically. Because cancer in kids grows faster, it spreads to other organs more aggressively, and it does not respond to treatment the same way that adult cancers do. But the only treatments that are available for kids' cancers are basically the drugs that are used on adults. They just pare down the dose a little and then hope for the best. And currently, kids' cancers receive somewhere between 3 and 5% of all the money that's raised in the country for cancer. So only 3 to 5% of all that money is going to kids' cancer research. So that's, I think, why our two families and other families in the community.
We need to give a shout out to Meg Murphy too.
Yes, to Meg Murphy, who's involved in Strong Heart.
Her little niece Neve, same thing,
Yeah.
right? And it's weird that you're all in this community together.
know.
That's bizarre.
I know.
But you know
it's a
what?
weird
And it's
club.
also, it's like they picked the people who could really make change.
I hope so. You don't have to help by giving money. Money is great and funding goes a long way, but there's a little shareable that I came across, and it basically says awareness equals funding equals research equals cure. So if you can help at any step in that process, that's what's important. So if you don't have money to donate, just make people aware of what September is and why it's important to know what September is. And then maybe that'll get to somebody else who can help with the funding aspect of it. You can donate money, you can raise awareness, you can donate blood, because any child who's in cancer treatment receives a lot of transfusions because the chemo destroys blood cells. So they need transfusions regularly, so donate blood. Or you can choose to become registered with the stem cell donor registry. Harrison's only chance at life was the stem cell transplant in the end. And it was an anonymous donor that that he was matched with. We didn't match, his brother didn't match, but an anonymous donor matched.
What do you want people to say to you?
It's a hard one. I guess our biggest fear is that he'll be forgotten and it'll be like he was never here. So just saying his name.
He'll never be forgotten with his mommy around.
Thank you.
You are a remarkable person. You really are, Shannon. And
Thank you.
when I met Shannon, she said to me, she said, "What are you doing September 15th?" And I said, "That's my son's birthday." She said, "That's my son's birthday too." So Harrison and my little guy shared a birthday together.
Mm-hmm.
I know how special kids are that are born on that day. And I'm really grateful that Harrison was here for as long as he was.
Thank you.
Because
We are too.
you know what? We're gonna get more information out there.
Thank you.
I don't hug very many people, but I feel like I have to hug you right now.
Awkward car hug.
Beating light, it's the truth that teaches us how.
Michelle.
Be strong, fight and hold on. And oh, my mother, tell me please, what does every strong heart have to bleed? What does every strong